Hey everybody, what's up? This is Charlie Sierra, and I have with me a copy of The Art of War, and I thought, you know what? Let's just read it together. So grab your copy of The Art of War. It's free. And I think I'm going to go through it chapter by chapter. And let's start with chapter 1, because chapter 1's always a good place to start. Chapter 1, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Laying plans. Sun Tzu said the art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These are the moral law, heaven, earth, the commander, method, and discipline. Method and discipline are one, by the way. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with the ruler so that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. Heaven signifies night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. Earth comprises distances, great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passes, the chances of life and death. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. By method and discipline are to be understood the marshalling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the graduations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditure. I'm going to slow down here because I want to go back to the moral law, because the moral law is perhaps the most important part of maybe the most vaguely understood. He says the moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler so that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. And the moral law is something that is written on our hearts. And I believe this. I think most of you probably do. I probably don't have to prove this in order to say it to this audience. But the moral law is right and wrong. It's something bigger than ourselves that we're fighting for. And it might help to point out that the opposite in order to illustrate this, because the opposite of the moral law is, for example, when the commander is all about himself and his own glory. We look at that person and say, oh, that's a politician. I don't want to follow that person. That person's a politician. But when someone is in accordance with the moral law, it is bigger than them. They are not the authority. They are not asking us to bow down and worship them as God. They're saying, hey, I'm pointing to something bigger than myself, something up there, something higher than me. Which is one reason why, for mental health, we denigrate ourselves when we focus on the big screen TV and instead of giving to charity. When we look for a good time rather than helping other people out. That's one of the things that causes or hurts our mental health. So the commander also is another thing. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. And so the commander is a walking, living, breathing illustration of all those things if he is a great commander. The issue, though, is when you see once again someone who is ambitious and they don't care about the soldiers, but they're trying to move. They're trying to move politically. They're trying to move in rank, and they lose the respect of the soldiers. These 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who knows them not will fail. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison in the wise. In other words, he's saying, who's going to win? Well, here's how you know. Which of the two sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? Which of the two generals has most ability? With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? Which army is stronger? On which side are officers and men more highly trained? In which army is there the greater constancy, both in reward and punishment? Man, I feel like I want to break that down, but we don't have time. So let's continue. No, you know what? You know what? Let's break it down. Which of the two sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? Which king is the most just, the one worth fighting for? The one who leads us, who we don't worship, but who leads us in a direction of righteousness that we know is righteous. Which of the two generals has most ability? In other words, who's the best strategist? Who can read the field the best? Who can understand what's going on? Who can understand things that he'll talk about in the future here with the conditions that pertain on the battlefield? With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? So in this part, he's not talking about who understands those. He's just saying who has those advantages. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? In other words, where is punishment delivered predictably and reward delivered predictably? Which army is stronger? Yeah, that's going to be an issue. That's a variable. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? In other words, who has the training advantage on the battlefield? Who is trained best to deal with battlefield conditions? And then the last one, in which army is there greater constancy, both in reward and punishment? And I think that harkens back to the discipline, the enforcement of discipline. Okay, next, he says, by means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat. So if you want a dashboard, you want to create a dashboard of successful companies, successful organizations, success in your own life. You want to create a dashboard? List these things in your dashboard. The general that hearkens to my counsel and acts upon it will conquer. Lest such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel nor acts upon it will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. While heeding the profit of my counsel, avail yourself also of any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. In other words, hey, even if these things, the things that we just talked through, aren't on even if there's something that is to your advantage that is not on that list, take advantage of it. According as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. And this is kind of like von Clausewitz, von Moltke, when he said, no plan survives, no strategy survives first contact with the enemy. He's saying, modify your plans, dude. Modify them. All warfare is based on deception. Man, that just reminds me of sports, right? It reminds me of playing soccer, and it was always about deception. I played in the front, and so it was all about deception for me. And that was the fun of playing soccer, is you just deceive people. You trick them into thinking one thing, and then you score. Because you know what? I was a lazy soccer player. I didn't want to run a lot. I didn't want to run. I ran at defenses, but only because I knew I could trick them. I would not ever go head-to-head with somebody because it's just too much work, right? And that's not how you fight warfare. You don't fight warfare by trying to prove that you can go up against the enemy's biggest strength. You fight warfare by being lazy. You fight warfare by saying, I'm going to win, but don't really want to work that hard. That's how you do it. In battle. You don't want to work hard in battle. You work hard so you don't have to work hard in battle, right? That's the rule. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. So basically, anything that your enemy believes that is wrong, and therefore could make them make a wrong decision, do that. Hold out baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush him. If he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If his forces are united, separate them. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. Wow, that's Napoleon to a T. Appear where you are not expected. These military devices leading to victory must not be divulged beforehand, because if you divulge them, then you're not deceiving anybody, are you? Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple ere the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. Thus do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations lead to defeat. How much more no calculation at all? It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. And so he's saying that in one sense we have von Moltke saying no plan survives first contact with the enemy, but then you have Sun Tzu saying but plan. And so there may be some confusion there, but the truth is the real effective method is to do both. You want to do both, man. You want to plan, because in planning you become educated. In planning you start to understand. Without planning you don't understand a whole lot. Without exercising your mind on the topic, you don't understand a lot. You want to argue with the terrain. You want to look at the terrain and say, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if we did this other thing? And in planning, you're familiarizing yourself with the battlefield, and so that you can now make adjustments because you understand the battlefield well. And so that is chapter 1 of The Art of War. And I don't know, man. What do you say? Should we do chapter 2 right now? Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to turn this off, upload it to YouTube, and get going. This has been Charlie Sierra. If you want to talk about this, go to forum.combatbrotherhood.com, and I will respond to your comments. That is forum.combatbrotherhood.com.